Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it. You already know. Like a torta with some bad habits. Bye, bye. Let's get straight to that intro. Welcome back to the channel. And if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, make sure you go ahead and do that. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content that I stay kicking. And I highly appreciate the support. Thank you. I'm very humbled, right? So everyone's still trying to get over this YouTuber that was gunned down inside his own home in Phoenix, Arizona. And like I said, I had a little bit of a history with this individual, man. And there's no point at this point to disrespect this man. You know, let this man lay where he lies and lie where he lays. And we need to push on and understand that this right here is a very alarming and concerning situation because it's an ongoing investigation. And I'm sure eventually someone will be apprehended due to this case. A family member of his did reach out to me and did respectfully say that he supports me. And he was actually, you know, happy about the video that I did and the way that I did it with respect. And that's the only way to do it. When someone loses their life tragically, even if you had beef with them, the beef ends right then and there. You know, why continue to talk about pissing on people's graves and disrespecting them and you know, telling stories that's going to defecate on their character that you wouldn't say to their face, right? So at that point, it's when you let it all go and you realize that that man met his demise at the hands of someone else and you didn't fully wish that upon him, but it happened. Such is life, right? So all I could do is move with respect when it comes to Daniel Says and just say, you know, hey, my condolences to his family and his inner circle. Now, I did come across a story that was brought to me by someone from Arizona, someone in the boxing community, right? That let me know something that I didn't know. And, you know, Daniel Sainz was known to rant and rave on his lives. He was known to disrespect a lot of people. He was known to challenge a lot of people, right? And what he did, and I don't want to use the word glorify, but that's the only word I can use. He kind of glorified, you know, some of his past crimes and things he was involved in. And I think he did it more so to let people know that he wasn't afraid, that he was about the business, and allegedly and accordingly to a lot of people from his neighborhood, he was somebody at some point in time. You know, he was also known as Bad Boy in them streets, and you don't just get that name for being a good boy, right? And so at the young age of 17 years old, he was arrested for his first case. Now I have a video I'm going to show you guys of him speaking in his own words, describing that case. He was, according to Daniel himself, he was considered the youngest person ever to do a drive-by in the state of Arizona. I don't know if he meant the Phoenix area or just Arizona, period. But what kind of got my attention was the person's house that he literally walked up on. It wasn't a drive-by. He literally pulled up to this place, jumped out with the shotgun, and let a lot of bullets fly right into a window, a bedroom window. This happened at approximately 4 a.m., 4 in the morning, which is a coincidence. And like I said, karma catches up to you, right? At 4 in the morning, someone went into his home with forced entry and gunned him down. Seems kind of tricky, huh? I'm not saying that this guy or his family members, the victim in this matter, had anything to do with this. I'm just saying it's just a big coincidence that you go to someone's house, pull up, let shots fly for whatever his reason was, right, into a home. And then years later, he was 17 years old, 16 years old at the time of the shooting, 17 when he was arrested. And then years later, at the age of 51, someone does the exact same thing to your home, only you become the victim and you don't make it. Now, the man that he allegedly shot at, that the home that he went to, was a very well-known boxer in the Phoenix, Arizona area known as Michael Carbajal, right? Michael Carbajal was a flyweight champion at one point, a super flyweight champion, and pretty well respected and known in the streets out there in Arizona and Phoenix. And so allegedly, for whatever reason, this man, Daniel Sains, believed that, this was a home of someone who had just fired over 72 to 75 shots into a car that he was in. And so he pulled up, jumped off the car, and engaged with the shotgun into this guy's home. Now, according to the LA Times report, which I'm going to show you guys, and the official, story, Michael Carbajal had nothing to do with that and didn't understand or know why he was victimized. Now, according to also the LA Times, no one got hit in the shooting. So Daniel basically shot into an occupied home, but didn't hit anyone. Thank God, right? But I understand that was the mentality and the mindset of a gangbanger, of someone who felt that they were just wrong, so they were going to retaliate. So I'm going to play you an excerpt of this video. And this is Daniel Sains, and this will show you his mentality, how he walked around out there on the streets disrespecting people and challenging people, but also him describing that case. But little did we know that if it wasn't brought to me by someone in the boxing community, I would have never known that it was actually a pro boxer's home that was innocent that he shot into. So let's get to that clip.
Motherfuckers meet me out in Duperville Projects right now. Hoe ass motherfuckers. Yeah, we run this shit. You motherfuckers ain't never ran nothing. I'm at this 910 East Fillmore, homie. My first case, homie. My first fucking case, I pulled up. I fucking hopped out. I ran up to this motherfucking porch and I lit it the fuck up. I got back in the fucking car. This is after they lit me up. Over 77 rounds fired into my fucking car. I beat them back here because I never took my foot off the gas. I didn't give a fuck if I died that day. And I sped the fuck away before they got back. The state of Arizona, I'm classified the first drive-by in history, in spite of the fact that that's not a fucking drive-by. And my homies try to fucking put a hit on me over the pendejadas that you guys have going on over there.
So you can see right there by that clip, the guy's mind state, right? This was a continual thing too, a continuous thing. This was the type of rhetoric and the type of loud speaking that this man was doing prior to his demise, right? And what he just described right there was his first crime that he committed. Not his first actual crime, but the first thing he was arrested for, his first case, right? And again, like I said, that was done on a pro boxer's home. Now, it came to be that he went to the wrong house. Okay, I guess he was getting involved in a gang shootout. They let loose 77 bullets into his vehicle. Like he said, he raced back to the home that he thought that they occupied or that they were in, and he beat them there, which is kind of crazy because if these guys just let loose, why would you race and beat them to their home and shoot into their home knowing they're not there, right? But this was his mind state, to swiftly return and retaliate. And so shooting into this home at 4 a.m. in the morning, it was actually the pro boxer's home that had zero to do with the shooting at all. Now, this wasn't a one-time incident, which kind of boggled my mind. This happened on, I believe, a Thursday. And of course, it was reported to the authorities, about this shooting, and they were looking for the suspect, which happened to be Daniel. Then someone returned on Friday, that very next day, and let loose into the home again. So that made me wonder and think and kind of look further deep into it. Was the Carbajal family, was Michael Carbajal actually involved out there on the streets like that? For someone to come back and double down and do it again, they literally felt that they had the right home the first time, right? Now, whether that's the case or not, I don't know. That's Arizona politics. But I will say this, that Michael Carbajal is a very beloved person, bringing that boxing spirit and that professionalism to the great state of Arizona. So, people don't seem to realize that a lot of these guys, just because they're boxers or actors or singers or rappers or whatever, there are dudes that have ties to the streets and that are involved in gangs. We see a lot with our basketball players throwing up gang signs and subliminals, and even the WWE, you have a wrestler that throws a pyro wears a red rag all the time. If you know what I'm talking about, right? We the ones. And that's just how that goes. But the way Daniel Says was speaking wasn't glorifying that crime, but basically in a heated confrontation with his chat, his live, and just letting people know that that's where his heart was, that he was down to do whatever. And ultimately, all those words come back to you. See, karma's undefeated. Time and karma are undefeated. When you do something bad to a person, unwarranted or just bad, period, then you bring a bad vibe and bad energy into your life. And something eventually is going to catch up to you. When you choose to become a content creator on YouTube or any other platform, you have to do it with the knowings that there's millions of people watching around the world and everyone thinks differently. Some people might see it as, oh, intriguing that this guy's running around talking about true crime and old crimes he was a part of in the past. And then there's other people that are going to believe he's glorifying and basically showing no remorse towards the victims that he created, right? And those are the people that are most dangerous because they can get it stuck in their mind that that's the type of individual you are. And for whatever reason can decide that the world is better without you. Now, there's a lot of rumors flying around. And like I said in my video yesterday about Daniel passing, that there's no rhyme or reason to assist the authorities in their investigation. A couple people left comments, which I deleted. And I'm sure there's many more because I haven't been able to go through all the comments on my last video that mentioned a certain prison organization or mentioned a green light or things like that this man was involved in. I could tell you this. Speaking on things like that is the same thing that this guy was doing. And that's probably something you want to refrain from, right? Pointing fingers at people, whether they're innocent or not, is something you're not supposed to do. And I know there's a lot of people that want to leave comments and feel like they're in the know, that they got the inside track, that they got some type of inside information, that they know better than everyone else. And they just can't hold it and contain it. But that shows the level and content of your character if you can't contain that type of information, whether it's true or not, right? Whatever that man said, whatever that man done in his life, he made a lot of enemies. You could see he started at a very young age. He was involved in a very well-known gang out there in Phoenix, Arizona, a very well-respected gang. And when I say respect towards the gangs, I mean feared and respected on the streets. And there's a thin line between fear and respect when it comes to being a gang member, right? It goes hand in hand. People love to be respected, but they also love to be feared. And when there's an organization or a group that's out there putting in the most work, they're definitely feared and respected to a certain point. No one's going to disrespect them, at least not to their face. This guy, Daniel Sainz, chose the latter route. He chose to disrespect people, disacknowledge, any type of positive thinking or attitude. But that wasn't totally him. He wasn't a bad person. He was just a person in defense. He was always in defensive mode, it seemed like. And that's why I never chose to go back and forth with him when he would make his videos, because he struck me as the type of individual that would go out of his way to create chaos. Someone who was willing and known for doing something like that at a very young age. Someone who was proud of his accomplishments and his past crimes, right? I never heard him speak in remorse of his victims. He never talked about how that right there was a case where it was mistaken identity, and that he shot a prolific and a very shot at a very prolific and well-respected boxing figure in the community's home. It was all about, this was my first crime. This is my first shooting. He wanted people to be on their toes and to be aware and know that he was willing to bust back. Now, again, like I said in my video yesterday, there was a live, and I'm trying to find it, where he was actually outside and was disrespecting back and forth with his chat. And someone pulled up and actually shot at him. And instead of ducking and dodging, this man continued to disrespect and throw out his verbal assault on people. Was it a man seeking absolution from earth? Was it a man that was willing to die for his beliefs? Some would say that. I think it was a guy that his mental was breaking down. And, it happens a lot in people that drop out of gangs or people that defect from gangs, because, Daniel was not in good standings within his gang. He was considered a dropout, right? He was considered someone who was no longer welcome, was no longer embraced in his cause. And no, I seen someone left a comment. He was a Norteño, he was a Sureño, he was neither nor, right? He was from a homegrown Phoenix, Arizona gang, at some point in his life, and then went to prison and did what he did there. Joined up with what he joined up there, and that's his business and their business. But at the end of the day, when you defect from a gang, I've noticed that a lot of people don't know how to act. They don't know how to conduct themselves. It's like a big piece of their life is missing and they have to fill that void. So a lot of people become content creators so that they could tell their stories, people like myself. And that's a way to fill that gap in that void of all we knew since growing up. When you're a very young age and you're involved at a high level in gang banging, shootings, and your involvement is real, when you take that out of your life, you need to replace it with something. Some people can replace it with religion. Some people can replace it with a woman. Some people can replace it with their family. And then others can't seem to fill that void. So there's an outlet, and the outlet is talking about your past crimes, I guess, your past, war stories. And that's a way of, basically it's medicina, right? It's a way to it's like therapy. It's very therapeutic to talk about it and to let people know what you were involved in. But there's a thin line, like I say, between talking about it and telling stories and glorifying it. And what it seemed like Daniel was doing was a lot of glorification. He was glorifying the fact that he was involved in these crimes. He was proud of it. I see a lot of people when they talk about their crimes, they smile, their eyes light up, and they're very proud. I'm not proud of anything that I've ever done or any victims that I victimized at all. The reason I'm not proud is because, I've looked into myself. I've studied myself tremendously. And I've come to the understanding that, I'm ashamed. Even walking down the street with all my tattoos, knowing that they're prison tattoos and people looking at me, I'm ashamed. Okay, I'm ashamed of the life that I lived. I'm ashamed of my character. I'm ashamed of a lot of things I've done. And the only way to get over that shame is to do things more productive and to, not be a chip off the old block, but to build a chip onto that block. And so what I'm doing in life is letting people hear my stories, adding a little comedy to it, making it funny, because there's nothing funny about it, but we all like to laugh. And if you can make a person smile, you got them, right? And so that's my thing with Daniel, going on to his lives. It was a lot of intense emotion, a lot of screaming, yelling, challenging, fighting, pissing, cussing, scratching, shooting. And ultimately, man, his life was taken due to gunfire. I just thought it was an interesting story that at 4 a.m., at exactly and approximately the same time that Daniel Says was killed in his own home, he tried to do something 2 decades prior to a professional boxer at his home. You see exactly, the timing could have been crazier. It catches right up to you. And again, like I said, man, this is in no form or fashion am I trying to pin this on Michael Carball and saying that his family or him or his friends were involved, 2 decades later and doing something to Daniel. I'm just saying that he once was involved. So I'm going to play that clip again and let him explain in his own words about this crime.
Motherfuckers meet me out in Duperville Projects right now. Hoe ass motherfuckers. Yeah, we run this shit. You motherfuckers ain't never ran nothing. I'm at this 910 East Fillmore, homie. My first case, homie. My first fucking case, I pulled up. I fucking hopped out. I ran up to this motherfucking porch and I lit it the fuck up. I got back in the fucking car. This is after they lit me up. Over 77 rounds fired into my fucking car. I beat them back here because I never took my foot off the gas. I didn't give a fuck if I died that day. And I sped the fuck away before they got back. The state of Arizona, I'm classified the first drive-by in history, in spite of the fact that that's not a fucking drive-by. And my homies try to fucking put a hit on me over the pendejadas that you guys have going on over there.
As you can see, not necessarily glorifying, but letting his chat know his live, because that was done on live, that's what he was all about. You know, hey, when you live by the gun, you most definitely, most likely, indubitably will die by the gun. With that being said, thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle, and strive for what I honestly and truly believe in, and that's the betterment of all people. Let this be a lesson to you. When you're ranting and raving on live, there's people watching. There's people that want to test your ability to be that man you say you are. There's people literally that are taking your words for pura, and they might double back on you. This video is sponsored by Barrio Liquors in Turlock, California. If you're ever in the Central Valley in the 209 Turlock area, make sure you pull up to Barrio Liquors and get you something cold to drink. Also, this video is sponsored by Sticks and Stones Yard Service out there in Tucson, Arizona. If you live in the Tucson area, make sure that you pull up to Sticks and Stones or get a hold of them via Google and, hey, work out a cool, smooth estimate. He's got you. This is the gun. Bang, bang.